Diddly boo. Hello, Witchy Boo. How are you?
Alive.
Alive and live. Both.
Yeah.
Always a bonus.
It is.
How are you today? All right.
Yeah, I've been a very busy bee. I have been
Been a busy
deeply
bee.
busy today. Yes.
Yeah.
Very productive.
Yeah. Nice. It's quite nice when you have productive days. I've had a completely unproductive day today and just lounged about.
Well, lucky old you.
Yeah. I've been running around like a headless chicken the last couple of weeks, so it's been quite nice to just be. Actually, it's been quite nice to literally just do bugger all.
I'm so looking forward to that state if I ever get there. But,
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got this new unit behind me. We have new furniture because it's not new. It's new to me because it was in my son's room and he's decided he wants something else. So I said, right, I'll have that then. Thank you very much.
Use up.
Yeah.
Repurpose. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Hello, Red
So,
Wing.
who have we got in? Oh, we got Red Wing in. Hello. Hope you're well this evening. Hope you're doing as well as we are, or halfway there, and you'll be halfway there too. So I thought we might have a chat about divination today. I've got a couple of other things up my sleeve as well in case we run out of things to talk about. But I thought divination might be quite a nice topic because obviously that covers.
Area.
Yeah, well, it covers such a wide spectrum, and of course, at the beginning of the year, it's quite nice to know what's in store this week, this month, this year, and so it's quite a nice beginning of year topic, isn't it?
Yes. I think it's. I always had this point of view that it's kind of it's a useful guidance to sort of give you something to hang on to when things don't go so well, and gives you a longer term picture, a bigger picture. So you're not so like that with life because
you can be quite blinkered, actually, can't you?
Oh God, yes. Oh yes. We all do it, even though we know that that isn't how the universe works. We still get so caught up in the minutiae and the day-to-day SH1T that you don't stand back and look at it. And I think divination is exceedingly useful for encouraging somebody to step back from something, and because you're doing it with somebody else, you can bounce ideas off and all kinds of new things come up. It opens up potential and possibility. You know, I don't think anything's ever set in stone, but I do think it opens up possibilities and options, which is very important.
I think so too. Do you have any particular go-to divination methods over and above others?
I always say that divination isn't one of my specialities. It's not so much my area. I know very much it's yours. And I adore tarot cards. Love them. I have little sets that I like. And I haven't done much divination for myself lately because I haven't felt the need to, because I kind of know where things are going. It's that sense of, I know a lot of what's happening for me is stuff I can do something about. So I tend to then get very practical about, okay, how can I drive this forward? And the bad stuff that happens, in reality, most of it I can't do a huge deal about. So in a way, I don't necessarily need to know it's coming.
Exactly, yeah. Blinkered
Only
effect.
if it's avoidable, and if there's something that you can do to prevent a situation, or you know, as you've done it, where someone has a particular question or a concern about an aspect of life, then it's really useful to drill down through the cards and see, or other methods, but I particularly love cards because they're so layered. They're so nuanced. There's so many levels within them that you pick out what you need to pick out.
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes, you know, you'll pull out the same card for a different situation, but you'll get an entirely different reading from it simply because it's an entirely different situation. And that's what I like about it. And of course, as you know, I tend to do intuitive tarot reading rather than specifically by the book. Although, you know, that obviously it has its has its place. But for me specifically, I tend to do more intuitive stuff and see what that particular card tells me for that in particular scenario and situation. So so like you, that tends to be my go-to thing, tarot, but not specifically. So it might be that I need to see something in a crystal ball, for example. As you know, that's one of my things. One of the things that I really struggle with actually is water divination. I really struggle with that.
Actually, anything where you're looking at something visual outside of yourself, I've done all sorts of things, you know, dark mirror work, and I have a crystal ball. I love it dearly, but for some reason, it just isn't my my abilities, my talents don't lie in that direction. And if I'm going to try and explore and see what comes up, I tend to use more eidetic imagery behind my eyes
Yeah.
as a way of letting things come through than actually staring at something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I get all kinds of insights with that. And I do find that my dreams tend to have an element of,
Yeah. Good old prophetic dream.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
years and years after the original dream, and I suddenly in a situation think, oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
I remember this. I
Yeah.
remember this feeling or this setting or something about it. And it's like, I know what that is.
Yeah. And I know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you notice that you started having prophetic dreams? How old
Oh,
were
as a
you?
child.
Yeah.
Always, yeah, from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. I can remember specifically my first experience of remembering a prophetic dream. And I was 10. And I had quite a horrific accident, actually. Ended up dead on the operating table for a while, which was lovely. But that was my first experience of a prophetic dream. And actually, I was lying, after the accident, I was lying waiting to go into surgery. And I remember saying to my dad, who'd been brought to the hospital, remember saying to him, I've dreamt about this, I knew about this, I dreamt about this. And so I was 10. And he said, you're not dreaming. And I said, no, I know I'm not. I know it's real, but I've dreamt about this. I knew about it. And that was the beginning of it, really. And I remember that really specifically. You know, I can remember that conversation and so on. And then I was out for the count, and then that was the end of me for a bit. But yeah, so that was my first, you know, sort of real noticing that's what it was. And of course, then from then on in, it became much more noticeable because obviously it was such a big event, big life event for me. And so, of course, then I realised that this sort of thing happened and that I could do it, and, you know, kind of went on from there. So I seem to go in phases with it. So I'll have, you know, sort of a year or two of many of them, and then it might dumb down for a little while, maybe a year or two, and then it comes back up again. And I don't quite know why it does that. And I went through phases of keeping dream journals and so on, like they say in all the books. Keep a
Yes.
dream
And then
journal.
it doesn't
And
come, does it?
yeah, it doesn't always pan out. You know, sometimes I
Yeah.
have really peculiar dreams, so it doesn't always pan out. But it's usually the ones that are less peculiar, that the ones that tend to be those that are the ones that will come to fruition, if you like.
The
So
very
yes,
mundane ones, isn't it? It's the ones where it's like it almost could be just playing out a life situation. It's not
yeah,
all
it's like a video clip.
fantastical.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
involve flying. It doesn't involve anything extraordinary, but there's something about the scenario and the situation where when you come to it later and you kind of think, yeah.
yeah. And of course, it
I
doesn't always
rarely
include
know
me.
I'm predicting ahead. I don't know I'm having a prophetic dream at the time,
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. I've had
yeah,
occasions where I've woken up and gone, oh my God, has something happened? But
yeah,
usually, no, it isn't.
yeah,
It's only
yeah,
later when something has happened I'm able to the benefit of hindsight, obviously,
yeah, yeah,
but tie the bits
yeah.
together, you know.
Yeah, I've had quite a few occasions opposite to that where it's not included me, and it's been, you know, a certain situation I've woke up knowing that it was something that I needed to pass on to whoever it was that I'd had a dream about. It might have been in years gone by. It's actually been about friends of my children, for example. So I've sort of woken up quite panicky, and it's like, you must tell this person not to do so and so. And there was one situation a long time ago where there was a murder actually in Croydon, and I knew a lot of information about that because I literally had dreamt it the night of the murder. And then as I woke up, TV was on when I got up, went into the living room, and there, bless her, was the poor girl that had just been murdered on the screen. I'm thinking, oh my God, I've just had a dream about her. And I ended up speaking to the police. I got arrested because I knew quite a lot of information, and they were like, why do you know this stuff? So it was all a bit strange. And obviously they realised that I was, you know, just being me and doing my stuff eventually, but it was, you know, it was a very strange time for a while. But yeah, that was strange. That was odd.
Yeah.
So
I bet you
yeah, so you know, I've had quite a few situations like that. Not quite as dramatic as that. I don't mean that was the most dramatic one, but you know, there's been quite a few situations when I've not been in, you know, one of the people in the dream, and
Oh,
that's
yeah, me
usually when I
too.
think, oh, I
Yeah.
need to pass some information on.
Especially if it's
So
something
yeah,
like some kind of a natural disaster or a, you know, sort of thing where you think, Ooh, why has that
Yeah,
come to me? It's like it's not even in this part of the world. It's something that may be
yeah,
happening somewhere else. And then
yeah,
usually it's been like a few days later and they've said something like, oh,
yeah. I
was
know.
it? I
Yeah,
can't be sure. I can't be sure. I'm not
yeah,
that strong in it, but it was like,
yeah.
I kind
It's
of
an
knew
odd
something was
situation
going to
to
happen.
be in, though, isn't it? And you sort of think, oh, I'm not sure about that. It's yeah,
Unless
it's
you've got a lot
weird.
of specifics, which I don't,
Yeah,
I don't tend to get.
yeah. See, I do.
Um,
So I get,
mm,
I'll get like number plates, for example. Things like, or even partial number plates, or make of car, or that kind of thing, or names and things like that. And it's useful, but it's
yeah.
also rather peculiar at the same time. So
Mm, yeah.
bit strange.
Assuming that's not a
Cheers.
gin and tonic you've got there.
It is in a half pint mug. You go me.
Wow.
Sometimes these things have got to be done.
I was going to say, I was thinking, oh, she's got a nice glass of water there, very sensible. Like, no.
Oh well, yeah.
Oh dear. Oh,
Might
we've
take
got
some time to get through that.
probably not. We've got
Well,
Jennifer
we'll
and we've got
see.
Tony Jackman in,
There's nothing wrong
as
with
well as
wetting the
Hannah.
whistle on a weekly
What's
basis.
hands? Hi.
Yes. So we've got some people in. Let's say
You
some
have.
hellos. So we said hello to Redwing. We've got Lee, hello, hope you're well. And we've got Jen, hello, all the way from over the pond, no less. And we've got Hans in, hello. We've got Tony, hello, hello, hello. New to us all, I believe. And yeah, Jen and Tony says, Hans, great to see you. So yeah, glass of water. Puh, glass of water, my foot.
I should have known better, really.
Some more. Cheers.
There was no ice in it. That's what threw me. No ice and a gin tea. What's the world going to?
Well, it takes up space, love.
Dilutes the alcohol, clearly.
Definitely takes up space. I would like to point out at this point in time, I'm not actually an alcoholic.
No,
But,
absolutely.
once a week, I like a gin. And it is only once a week, on a Wednesday, when I'm chatting to you.
Exactly.
So there we are. So how are you with pendulums?
Well, I used to try. I kind of got very into them quite a number of years ago, and I was given a rather lovely one. And I kind of got into it a bit, but it didn't really. Unless you have very specific questions, which and if you're asking for yourself, your subconscious is going to be in there
Yeah.
affecting it. So I was always I would say a little bit skeptical of it, but I appreciate some people are very skilled with them. And again, not so much me. I'm better with with dowsing rods, strangely enough. I
Oh,
discovered
yeah.
that many years before I stepped into, Wicca per se, but I'm better with those, it would seem.
Yeah. Do you use metal dowsing rods?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
you
I've
can
not got
use
a
the
huge
split
experience
tip,
with
can't you?
dowsing rods. I mean, I have I've got a set of dowsing rods, but I've not got a massive experience with them. I led a a ghost hunt, which
Who won't know?
I was first on the list. Yeah.
That's gin for you.
There's one. Oh, look. No, ghost hunt. And it was, oh God, it must be 10 years ago now. And actually, that was quite good. And we went trundling around with various other. It was in a town actually, and I'd done some research beforehand to find out, sort of ghost stories of the town. And chose this particular town because there was a plethora of ghost stories. And actually, it was quite nice. We went sort of trundling around in the evening, and sort of took out EMF meters and all that kind of stuff. But actually, the dowsing rods was quite interesting. We used them to sort of see if we could pick up energies and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was interesting. But as I say, I wouldn't class myself as experienced with that. But
No.
as you know, I've got the woods, and I've used them down at the woods a few times to pick up different energies because I have these pockets of energy, different energies down at the woods. And there was an incident down there a few years ago, very peculiar incident, which I don't really want to go into, but I had after that, which completely freaked myself and my friend out that were there. And afterwards, actually, we went around the woods with the dowsing rods to see if anything was picked up energy-wise, if there was any residual energy from what had happened and so on. And yeah, it was, it was unmistakable that they picked up on these energies and stuff. But it's something that I'd like to try a bit more with, simply because I just, haven't had the experience with it. I've had plenty of experience of other bits and bobs.
I'll bring the
Some
metal
with
ones
more,
over
some with
then.
less,
I'll bring the
But
metal ones over then, because I'd lent them to my son because he was having to clear out of his bedroom. He kind of said, "Oh, and here's some of your magical stuff back,"
yeah,
because obviously over the years he's accumulated a few things,
yeah.
and some of that was the dowsing rods. He had been using them, so yeah.
Oh, cool. That's interesting.
His level of interest comes and goes. I mean, he's 15 at the moment. It's really not his bag at all.
Yeah.
But I said to him, well, I'll put them back in the magical cupboard, and then if you ever want them again, you know where they are.
Where they are. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's nice though that he had an interest, even if it's temporarily taken itself back. It's quite nice that he's
It's
got.
taken a back seat, just the pressure of schoolwork and everything. I think they fill their minds with all that sort of stuff, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for the other more expensive. But I firmly believe that as and when it, if he wants it to come back, and then it will.
Yeah, well, it'll be there for him when he wants it, won't it?
Of course. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, pendulums I find really interesting. So I get, I get quite a lot from pendulums, and I do them. I use them for myself for certain questions, especially if they're, definite yes or no answer.
yeah.
But I had very interesting experience with pendulum. A few years ago, I was at a witch camp, and we were staying in quite an old building, and we had again, strange incident happen, really peculiar incident happen, that alerted all 15 of us at the same time. And it was just this odd noise that happened. So we all came flying in from the garden, because we all heard it at the same time, jumped to our feet and came flying indoors around about midnight. And there appeared to be a presence there. And it's like, okay, well, let's see if we can find out some information as to what this presence is and so on. And we decided that using a pendulum might be a suitable thing, simply because we had pendulums to hand. And what was really bizarre about it is that, of course, normally when you hold your pendulum and then you get it to do its yes and you get it to do its no, so you know what, you sort of got your ground rules for it, if you like. But what was really interesting about it is that whereas normally you're holding it, you're balanced, and it will swing or it will rotate and it will go in whichever direction is choosing that particular time, it decided that it was going to stay still, but the actual chain of the pendulum was vibrating like a guitar string, really dramatically. And it was like, well, I've not seen it do that before. And I think it was just that the energy was so strong in the room that it was picking up on that while it was thinking about what the answers were and so on. And it was fascinating. And we were communicating with this presence for probably about 2 hours, actually. It was really... Yeah, it was really intense. But if you asked a question, it wasn't sure of the answer. You got this strange vibration. And it's the only time I've experienced it doing that on that particular occasion. Normally it's kind of, it will swing and then it will, go from one side to the other, or it will suddenly rotate and change to that. But this was really different. It was, a totally different experience to anything else.
Yeah.
So, and of course that's different to predicting the future, because obviously we were using that as a communication tool. But yeah, it was a really interesting exercise, if nothing else, to sort of see that there are differences in what things can do. But I find that quite useful. If you've got a sort of a quick question, should I do this? Should I buy tea or should I buy coffee? Well, yes or no, great.
Very cut and dried answers to things.
Exactly, cut and dried answers, nice and easy. Should I cut the grass today or should I wait until next Tuesday? Yeah. But there's times where you can get far more out of it, and that certainly was one of those times. And it was fascinating to see just how it reacted and how different it was, how it reacted to what I've been used to for the past 20 years. It was really interesting. So
yes, I've never seen it do that, but like I say, I haven't really experimented with it for quite some time. There's sort of things that you kind of have a big sort of go at certain things, and then you tend to go, oh, maybe that's not for me, or something else comes along to distract you, and then you
piques your interest.
I should revisit.
Exactly.
Some of these things.
Yeah. So we touched on scrying And I said,
Indeed.
water scrying is one of the things that I really struggle with, actually. And scrying with the crystal ball, I get not just images, I get kind of video clips in the crystal ball, which is fascinating. It's like watching short clips on YouTube. It's great.
It's like watching a movie, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yeah. It's just like a short clip on, so like 2 or 3 seconds, and it will repeat. So that's quite interesting, almost like a GIF. Actually, that's probably a better
because it's literally
it's more like a GIF. It
3
really is
seconds.
just a bit. So I do that. That's how I struggle with water scrying, but then fire scrying, I get more from that. And of course, fire is one of your things, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Staring at embers and things. I'm in different worlds, and it's not always divinatory, but it's certainly a stepping outside of your normal space and place.
It is,
but yes, I do find fire a lot easier. I struggle with water too. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why. Maybe sometimes it's the sort of thing of, well, I really ought to be seeing something. Your conscious mind will start going, why aren't I seeing something?
Exactly.
What am I doing?
It interferes, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. It interferes.
Yeah.
But I do think that, generally speaking, I think if you're after in-depth divination, I can't think of anything actually better than tarot. That for me is, it's so, as you say, multifaceted, and you get so many different levels of information rather than it just the yes or no, or my video clip, my GIF or whatever.
You can keep going with it. If something comes up, you can continue to ask questions, draw cards, and that will just take you deeper and deeper in. So
that's right.
It's got
and you get
real
more clarification, don't you? Definitely.
Yeah. If the cards are playing, otherwise they'll tell you to go away.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like you've asked this before, go away.
Exactly. Yeah. And
because we all know that can happen.
Yeah. What we got here? So Hans says pendulums are amazing. All your own personal jewellery is brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Necklaces doesn't have to be something you specifically
this is a very good
dosh for. Exactly. Yeah.
So that shape too.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to fork out hard-earned wonga for a pendulum. No, absolutely, a necklace or a ring on a chain, or a ring on a bit of string, actually, anything like that. Glow in the dark dowsing rods.
Now that's special, isn't it?
Wow.
Who knew?
Do you think you could do the whole? I suppose if you could do that, I've got visions of those. In the 90s when you went to raves.
Glow sticks.
Glow sticks.
Probably would look a bit like that. Yes.
Oh God. Well, it's different.
Certainly is.
Definitely. So Tony says scrying. There's lots of different scrying. So you've got obviously you've got your water scrying, your fire scrying, air scrying. Do it with incense. That's quite interesting. So you can get used to different shapes and so on. And then you've got your black mirrors. Now black mirrors I can do. The dark mirrors, whatever you want to call them. That works. I can do that, but I don't know why I can't do water, because it works on a similar principle.
Yes, but they are. Yeah, they do, but I find a dark mirror a little easier, but I still struggle with that, to be honest. I've made one. I went to a wonderful workshop and made one. It's beautiful, and I won one in somewhere else. So I have a decent collection of them, but I'm just not very good. I'm a bad bitch.
It's weird, isn't it? You sort of get various different tips, and it's like, use a dark bowl, put a coin in it, put this in it.
Yeah.
I think, oh God, put a candle on it and use that, and it's like, well, I'm just going to use the candle then. It just doesn't work, and it's not for the want of trying. But like you say, not everything is going to be your bag.
No, and it was sort of traditional. Certainly when we were more involved in a kind of regular Wiccan coven, on Samhain, to actually sit around a cauldron with the coin in the bottom, huge great thing, and see what came. And actually what I learned about me was that I would actually sit back from it and close my eyes and basically scry in the darkness behind my eyes. That actually, because that's portable, you can do that anywhere, as long as you can get a reasonable amount of darkness. It's amazing what you can see, and that is like a little video clip, as you were saying. It's almost like a GIF, actually. Yes,
a GIF, not a gift. Yes, a GIF, or both.
Hans is explaining to Tony about what scrying is, or screening. Yeah.
Ah, right.
It's
Okay.
coming
Yeah.
halfway through there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as Hans says, and obviously, and Jen too, scrying very much is predicting or looking for information from various different methods by using shapes, for example, in a teacup. So I use coffee grounds in a teacup. Some people use tea leaves. That's tasseomancy. It might be that you're using water and you're using images that you see within the water or reflections on the top surface of water. It might be that you're using fire to scry in, so you might have lots of different flames on a fire or the embers of a fire, or it might be that you're using a single flame on a candle and looking for images within that. And of course you've got like you'd have dream prediction, you've got symbolic images, and you'd have symbolic images as well as actual pictorial things, but you'd have symbolic images within within a cup full of coffee grounds, or within clouds in the sky, things like that. So it's all different forms of as Hans says, intuitively telling what, different bits of information, if you like. So yeah, so that's what that is. And it's it's your kind of like typical stereotypical witchy trait, really. Isn't it?
It is a bit, yes.
It is,
Gazing at
yeah.
clouds, certainly something I did an awful lot of as a child.
Yeah.
Staring off. And I find actually between where you get, I love this time of year where you have the bare branches of trees, because I find just looking through the branches and seeing what shapes come to me, that for me, I think is quite, that's quite an interesting, I don't know if there's an official name for that, but that's something I have always done.
Yeah, yeah.
And find that
One of the things, of course, in yesteryear was they used to do scrying with entrails.
Oh yeah.
So as a vegan, that's kind of something that
not going to happen.
doesn't float my boat. But
Not
good
me.
old Lucia Starzer, hello if you're watching this back, Lucia. Good old Lucia, a few years ago, came to one of my moots. Actually, it's quite a few years ago now. Came to one of my moots and was explaining about it, the name of which eludes me at the moment. I can't remember the name of it.
There is a name, and
there is a name of it. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, whatever it is. But also decided that probably bringing entrails to the pub was probably not going to go down terribly well.
It's very messy.
Yes. So she brought along a cabbage instead, a red cabbage, and of course that it was ideal having a red cabbage because you get to see the different the contrast in the red and the white and so on quite easily. And we ceremoniously and ritualistically chopped it in half and then chopped it up, which is exactly what they would have done in Roman times when they were reading the entrails to see what the future held. And it was great. And we did this, this whole ritual and this whole thing of telling the future with a red cabbage. It was marvellous. Absolutely marvellous. So yeah, get yourself down to the greengrocers and go and get yourself a red cabbage and have a good old practice with it. And then you can eat
coleslaw,
divine later. So yeah,
win-win. Always a good
coleslaw,
thing.
perfect. What's not to like?
Yeah.
But I can't remember the name
of things, isn't it? Yeah, I can't.
Lucia's written a book actually, which is coming out. Is it this month? It comes out.
It's very soon. It is very soon.
It's not already out. I think it's this month. So I'm going to give her a shameless plug because she's a very dear friend of ours. So yeah, Scrying by Lucia Starzer. Go and check it out. It's new, out on the shelves and available via Amazon, I believe.
It's Moon Books, isn't it?
Moon Books.
Publishers? Yeah,
Moon Books is the publishers, and you can buy it from other places other than Amazon.
She has written other books. Others are available, and they're all brilliant.
Yeah, and they're jolly good. So yes, so if you're interested in learning more about scrying and so on, then it's an entire book written by our pal. So yeah, I don't have a copy yet because I'm still waiting for it. Lucia.
Yes, I don't think she has a copy yet either, which is not the problem.
Yeah, actually, I think she's had problems with the printers. I think
she has. Her sample ones, I think, went off to where they shouldn't have done. So she's not got.
They went to Rye, I think,
to get reviewed, but we'll all review it anyway as soon as. And
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, all good stuff. All good stuff. Right, what have we got here? Pom tilly pom. Cloud, just about anything. Sand. Oh yeah, sand, definitely. Like gazing slightly out of focus to get messages from. Yeah, do you know what it reminds me of? Do you remember those Magic Eye books
Oh
that
God,
were
yes.
really popular? Was it the 90s they were really popular?
Yeah, they gave everyone headaches. Yeah,
They did, and everyone was like
Magic
going
Eye.
like this.
Yeah, but you have to
Everyone's
defocus
totally
your eyes.
boss-eyed. That's right, yeah.
In
You
order
could
to
either do
see
it
it,
or you couldn't. But then you
and you
found
have to do it
afterwards,
the
if you're
right
trying to
distance.
read a book, you couldn't focus on
Really.
anything because your eyes were like, oh, what does that say? It's written in 3-inch print. You should be able to read it. Oh, God, I can't focus. So, yes, yeah, good old Magic Eye books. But, yeah, so it's a similar kind of thing, getting your eyes out of focus and then just seeing what you can do. And again, as Hans says, patterns and animals, see if anything that means anything to you. Yeah, bones and shells too, and teeth.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
like say anything
They
really.
used to cast teeth, didn't they? Rather like runes. Ah,
And
runes,
bones
of
as well.
course. Yeah, and bones.
Runes, yes.
Yeah, of course,
A
runes.
lot of people really, really take to runes and
They
have
do,
worked
don't
incredibly
they?
well with them. Again, not so much for me because I don't think I've got that tie to that language, if you
Yeah,
like. But they can be read on quite a few levels, can't they? And you get things like the I Ching, which is something that isn't sort of witchy at all, but is more from the sort, isn't it Chinese? I think
it's Chinese, I think. Yeah.
the Book of Changes, and actually was originally using yarrow stalks, actual stalks. So almost anything, I
Yeah,
think.
exactly. It's just whatever floats your boat, really, isn't it? Yeah. Same with runes. I found it quite interesting. So I tried with runes for many years, and as you say, they kind of didn't resonate with me. And for whatever reason, I found it quite difficult to memorise what meant what, and so on and so forth. And I was like, oh, why am I struggling with this? And it's obviously, like you said, not everything is going to be your particular forte. And then I went on a workshop, and the lady that ran the workshop was doing a talk on English runes, and I was like, English runes? Hello, they're Viking. And no, there is evidence that the English had their own runes. And not only was the workshop fascinating, but they were sufficiently different. They're slightly different. They're not totally different, but they were sufficiently different to make sense. And they made much more sense to me personally than the runes did. And I bought myself a set, and actually they're great. I bought myself a nice little set, and they're carved into pear wood. Beautiful, actually.
Very English.
And they resonate much more. And I've never done one of these ancestry things to know whether I've got any kind of ancestry with with the Vikings and Nordic.
Most of us have some.
Stuff. Most of us do.
Even I've got some, but it's not strong enough to cause a massive
and it was, but
connection.
the differences were just subtle enough to suddenly go, oh, right, okay. And those subtle differences were enough for me to resonate with them compared to the Viking runes, the ones that everybody knows. And of course, we've got tree Ogham. We've got the Ogham. Ogham.
Ogham, yeah.
Ogham. Yeah. So we've got those two. What have we got here? So Jen says that she knows someone who does vine readings.
Vine.
With bones and different objects. Oh, so is that vines as in vines that grow up trees like ivy and things like that? I wonder, must be.
Possibly.
Interesting. And says, yes, Jen, and the Norse side would have a bag of different objects from nature that were all different to do with divination with that too. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, different objects. And again, it's, I suppose different objects landing in a certain place would represent different areas of your life, different answers to different questions because of the positioning of a certain item, whether it's a stone or a leaf or a stick or whatever. So yeah, that would make sense too. I wonder, Hans, if you know what sort of items might have been in that particular bag. So Tony says, love those Magic Eye books. Yeah, everyone went around boss-eyed, didn't they? And and he was the only one in the family that could see them almost instantly. I think once you've trained your eye to go out of focus, actually it's easier to do, but it takes a while to master that particular effect in the first place, doesn't it?
And again, it's the art of not trying, because
Exactly.
trying, again,
you try too hard and you can't do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. But as I say, trying to read a book afterwards is tricky.
Yeah.
I can't see a flipping thing. You can't read the words. You're like, Jennifer says, where did you find the English runes? So I came across these because I got invited on a workshop at a friend's house. There was quite a few of us there, actually. And this lady that did the workshop was her, it was kind of her thing. And it was something, it was a sort of a 20-year hunt to discover them all. And they're actually all over England. There's examples of them all over the place, and a lot of them had been mistaken for poor examples of Viking runes, but actually it turned out that there was sufficient consistency to say, actually, no, that does mean this and this does mean that. What I'll do is I'll put a link up after this. I'll put a link up to her book, and yeah, you'll be able to find out. But it's not it's not a big thing, even though we're in England. It's not a big thing. People tend to go for the regular runes, if you like. But yeah, I'll put a link up to her book and so on. She's a lovely lady, she really is. But I'll put a link up for her book and stuff later. So hopefully that answers that. Right, what else have we got here?
Yes, Jennifer said that the vine reading thing was a typo. She meant bone readings.
Oh, right, okay.
Predictive text. We all know how dastardly that can be.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay. So, yeah, person develops a relationship with the items and conducts the readings based on what the items say. And then Han says there would have been herbs and torchwood. I believe that's wood that's been hit by lightning, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. And animal bones, and where found personal items that really resonate with the cider, and they would be cast on a blue piece of material and a bag made out of...
So it would have been very individual then. The person would have
definitely.
Which
I wonder why it was blue. Sense. I wonder why the material was blue. I bet that was dyed with woad. Cool. Interesting stuff. Natural resources, but the items will be connected to healing. Yeah. So I suppose we've got all the different herbs and stuff. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Interesting stuff. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about today was disassembling spells.
Absolutely. Because once they've done what they're going to do and time has moved on, you kind of have to take... Sometimes they will just dissipate. Certain things will dissipate. But things, particularly sort of talismans and stuff like that, I think, it's useful to actually undo them. Or if you've made a spell jar, to sort of... Because otherwise you'd end up with an awful lot of stuff kind of just sitting there.
Exactly, yeah. So you've got two things to consider. So you've got spells that you may personally have conducted yourself, that have sort of done what they needed to do, whether it's a spell for getting a new job, for example, or whether it's a spell for I don't know, a certain amount of money to pay a bill or something like that.
Yeah.
So you've got that sort of thing, and it's like, yeah, that's worked, and you take it all apart, or it's come to fruition, and so you decide that you're going to either bury it or put the remains in running water, or as long as it's eco-friendly. But I was also thinking about when there's been spells that need to be... what's the best way of explaining it? Spells that have been done that actually need deconstructing because they no longer serve a purpose, or spells that other people might have done that you need to kind of blank or block.
Okay.
So things like that too. Because let's face it, we're all in a sort of witchy circles and stuff, and other people do things, and you sort of think, no, maybe not. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that wasn't as I understood the question, so I'll have to think about that, because then you've got to know A, who's cast it, B, what their intention was, enough information about what that spell might have been to be able to go in and say, okay, I've now got to unwind it.
Yeah.
Somehow, if it's something physical like a knot spell or something, then obviously you can undo it, but you've got to be able to do something almost on the astral, haven't you, really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's quite interesting because this stuff does happen. Sometimes somebody might get the wrong end of the stick about something, and so on. You hear all the time, one of the most common requests, for example, I don't know about for you, but one of the most common requests that I used to get when I run psychic fairs would be people would come and ask me for a love spell, for example. Now, I don't perform them.
No.
I don't personally perform them because I think it goes against somebody else's will. Yes, put out there that you're, put out to the universe that you're after a new squeeze, maybe. That might be something. But to actually specifically say, I'd like person A to get with person B, no, won't do that. But not everyone has the same ethic, and sometimes you might realise that you're part of something that you're unwillingly or unwittingly associated with. And you might find that you need to do that. And of course, the same goes with curses too. Again, another thing, people believe that they're cursed, and it's about undoing that kind of stuff. So
it's
there's a lot to be said. It's quite a big topic. So what are your thoughts on that? How would you go about that?
Oh, Lord. Well, I mean, if it was something like where somebody believed that they were under a spell and being manipulated, then I'd really have to go pick apart exactly what it was that they thought was happening, because unless you understand their psychology and what they are experiencing, you can't really construct something that's going to try and reverse that. Or, as you say, it's either a block or a bind, or you're looking to dissolve something, or there are many ways of working with it. I find anything where you can literally dissolve something. Obviously, I've got a stream at the bottom of my garden, very healthy and in full flow at the moment, thanks to all the rain. But I find that's very useful for writing anything onto a toilet paper. That's a very good dissolvey thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like very fine tissue paper, not necessarily a 3-ply, because that's going to block something up.
Yeah.
But actually sort of dissolving something away and seeing that happen, or freezing something in a block of ice. And I have a couple of those at the bottom of my freezer, which are kind of almost counter spells.
Yeah.
To try and undo what somebody feels that they've been influenced.
Yeah.
But I haven't done a massive amount of it. I haven't been asked for a great deal because I haven't run psychic fairs and I don't tend to get people approach me in that way.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because as you say, you need to know so much information. If you haven't got huge amounts of information, either from what somebody's sent out or from what the receiving end has received or perceives to have received, you do. But like you say, you literally need to pick it apart stitch by stitch.
And maybe you can use some divinatory tools to help you. If the person isn't clear, I would say sit with them with the tarot and get them to get a clearer picture of what's going on, because then that empowers them, which I think is probably quite.
And also you get levels of realization at that point as well, because you sort of people will be kind of banging their head on a wall saying but why this and I don't understand why this is happening or so on. And actually it's quite useful, like you say, with whichever divination tool you use, to find out that information, because sometimes you might just come out with a single word and say this word's coming up and it means nothing to you personally, but to the person sitting in front of you, they're like, oh my god. And it's like that light bulb moment of what something might have sparked, or how something might have been misinterpreted or misunderstood, and actually it's maybe not quite as they thought it was, or somebody else isn't isn't in full information mode, and so they've acted on misinformation, for example. So it's quite useful, as you say. And not only that, it's tedious and it's long-winded, but sometimes it is one of those things that does need to be doing. And you hear it all the time. People are like, oh, I think I'm cursed, I think this.
It's a very easy thing to say.
It is an easy thing
to say. In reality, it's actually quite rare, but
it is.
In my experience as a sort of a therapist in my pre-eBay life, was very much a case of most of the limitations and curses and blocks that people perceive to have come from outside have actually somehow been created internally over a long period of time. So, but they can still be changed.
Yeah.
The fact is, people tend to put control outside themselves because that's an instinctual
it's a human trait, isn't it? It's not my fault.
Yeah. They call it locus of control. It's that whole thing about, oh, well, it's all over there and it's someone else doing it. Whereas usually it's got something to do with what's going on for yourself on some level. So either way, it can still be unpicked. It can still be undone, changed, worked with.
Yeah. It takes a long time to do, though. You know, it's not a quick fix. Definitely not.
Yeah. Because those people find it so much easier to believe in something bad than something good.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? I don't know quite why that works, actually. Or whether it's just a British thing, I'm not sure.
Oh, I think it's a fairly human thing, but I think
it's global. Yeah,
quite possibly, but certainly culturally, we have quite a big bag of it.
Yes, we do, don't we? It's all that stiff upper lip, you know, and teeth. And queuing. You've got plenty of time while you're queuing to think about it.
Ruminate. Yes.
And then you slap yourself on the thigh and say, right, and off you
go.
Right, I've got to do that now. That's it. Right, what have we got here? We've got people saying things. So Hans says Torchwood is not lightning wood, it's connected to oak. Oh, sincere apologies. And going back to the cider bags, the items would also be connected to luck, prosperity, war, outcome, and cast in a circle on the blue material. Interesting. And they were carried on a belt around the waist.
Handy.
Yeah, that's something that maybe I ought to do. Magical things on a belt around the waist. If I had a waist, I'd do that.
I was going to say you'd be in danger of losing said belt.
I just don't have a waist. I'm more of an apple.
The thing is, I can have a belt around my waist and nothing's going anywhere.
No, exactly. Mine just sort of lands south, and that's the end of that. Off it goes. It's like, ow. Straight up, straight down. That's the problem.
It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, hi, Julie. Good evening, says Julie. Hello. Hope you're well today. And yeah, Redwing says, I agree, Hannah, too much like coercion. Yeah. And as Han says, good old British. Yeah, we're a funny old bunch, aren't we?
Yes.
Oh dear. Yes. Now, have I missed anything? Nope. Brilliant. So, yes. So what have you got coming up this week, my love?
My taxes. Very unmagical, I know.
That's not very magical at all. Can't you put a magical spin on it?
Bit of a deadline. Well, I will do. I mean, I'm approaching it with trying to enjoy the numbers and think, well, you know, if I end up having had a very good year, and of course it's way back because it's 20/21. I think if it was an all right year and I have to pay taxes, then it means I'm obviously doing something right. So
yeah,
I try and put as good a spin as possible and not begrudge.
The old silver lining in the cloud.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But it's difficult doing things retrospectively sometimes and having to go back and go, oh, do I have to go through all this? But it's a useful exercise because it shows you where you've been, where you want to go. You know, it's part of the sort of clarifying process, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't mind doing it. And I do tend to do it all at once because then I can really get stuck into it and I quite enjoy it.
Not rather than doing it bit by bit.
Yeah, because then I get a proper overview. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't do so badly then. That's all right.
Yeah.
What can I do better? And, you know.
Yeah. And I suppose you can sort of see how things are going month by month as well, can't you? And what trends.
I do. I get my monthly reports. That's all done through eBay. But yeah, you know, it's very practical. It's very grounding. It nails your feet to the perch.
Yeah.
But it's also useful time to take stock of things and think, okay, you know, how's it gone?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So no, it's not very magical, is it really? But
no, it isn't. No, but you can apply. What I was going to say was that you can apply that same principle to magical workings too, can't you? Take stock. Yeah, it literally takes stock of what you've done over the past year. Especially if you keep a log of it in a book of shadows or just a notebook or whatever it is, and taking stock of that. And again, you get to see patterns of what people might ask of you over the year, or what you ask of yourself over the year, or what you tend to require at different times of the year. And of course, when you've got the wheel of the year and different stuff happens because of the different Sabbaths, it's quite interesting to sort of see, oh, actually, I needed to do this, and that felt necessary to do that. Oh, and this has cropped up this year and last year and the previous year, and you think, oh, okay, you'll see a pattern coming here, and then you can be ready for, you know, if you're having down times, for example, or, you know, difficult times, or, you know, even good times, you can sort of think, okay, well, you get ready for that, and you sort of think, you know, especially for those people that are like me, prone to SAD, seasonally adjusted disorder, you know, you can sort of see, oh, this is when I start coming back out of that time, you know, and things start looking a little bit rosier, for example, or
I'm
this
a
is
lot
the
better
time
with
I
it
tend
than
to
I
eat
used
4
to be.
packets of biscuits a day, or whatever it might be, you know.
Yeah, I don't get too much of it. I'm very fortunate, but I am lucky that I do get out most days. I do, you know, get out outside properly. You know, I'm not
Yeah,
chained to a desk. I'm fortunate in that respect, and
yeah,
I think that makes a big difference.
I think so.
But noticing the little things as well, you know, that's the thing. It's too easy to get caught up in managing the big stuff of life. But then I woke up this morning and I saw the sun coming up through the branches of the trees, and I thought
Yeah,
it's a little bit lighter. It's a tiny bit lighter than it was a couple
yeah,
of weeks ago, and that's for me is the beginning of, oh, well, we know where that's going next.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And of course, we're marching swiftly forward to Imbolc, can't we?
Yes, we
That's
are.
not far
Yeah,
away now. I tell you
exactly.
what, I have noticed actually in the garden, and I've got lots and lots of bulbs already coming up.
Things are very
Lots.
early. As
Yeah,
all
I
my
suppose it's because of
camellias are
wild.
ready to burst into bloom. Some things are a bit early, and I think if we get some cold weather, we're going to be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
But definitely everything is, I've seen people mowing lawns and things. There were people
Really?
mowing the verge, and I'm
Cool,
like,
that's keen.
grass has kept growing because it has been astonishingly mild, pretty much most of this winter so far.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think the birds have been louder than ever. I certainly feel like I've noticed them more.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I'm just getting better at noticing things.
Maybe. You never know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
No, we're all here to learn, aren't we, on a continual basis. It's not just like, well, I know that now and that's the end of it.
Oh God, no.
It's just constant, isn't it? And I love that. You know, you sort of find out something new every day. Think, oh, I never thought of doing that, or I didn't realise that was this, or, you
Yeah,
know, whatever. And I love that. You know, every
making new
day.
making new connections and suddenly connecting something. Going, oh, okay, that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think if
No,
you
I
ever
love
stop
that.
doing that, then that's a very sad place to be.
Exactly. Yeah,
Student of life,
definitely.
Hans. Yes,
Yeah.
that's. I consider myself a perpetual student.
Yeah, exactly.
And Tony says 66 days to the first day of spring. Not that I'm counting. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
66 days. Wow.
But that's the
Yeah.
official, you see. For me, spring is in here. And as soon as I start to notice things changing, then it's like, that for me is spring.
That means it's only 61 days till my birthday.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Good old Pisces, trundling around with my head in a paper bag, completely oblivious to everything. That's how that works.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Best way to be. Put that bag on. Yeah.
Put that paper bag on.
And if in doubt, stick your head in the sand. There. Perfect.
Not sure how that works for Taurians like myself.
Oh, yes. Well, you. Now, us Pisces, we're just like, oh, don't know. No idea. How much do you think, this is a good question to leave on, how much do you think is conditioning for people to act out their traits of a zodiac sign, and how much do you think is actually relevant?
Well, the traits are extremely generic. There is that. So the kind of you're this month, therefore you're this, I think is by and large quite a little bit misleading. There are some things I think there are certain traits definitely that do seem to be there. But I also think for some people it's like, well, I'm this, therefore, I'm this sign, therefore I should be that.
Yeah.
It's far more complicated than that. Of course it is.
Yeah.
So I don't pay too much stock to, I'm not one for reading a horoscope in the back of a newspaper, for example. but an individual chart plotted out when you know when you were born, and you can, I think, is again a useful guiding tool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yes, in terms of trying to predict how your life's going to turn out, no, I wouldn't put too much stock by it.
Yeah.
Personally.
What I find quite interesting is that the elderly lady that I visit, she 97 years young she is, and she's a Leo, and she's very, very much into horoscopes. She's a fascinating lady, and she's very much into horoscopes, and she believes that Leo is very much the the strongest sign and so on, partly because she is, I'm sure. And she's a very feisty lady, but she really does. She's your stereotypical Leo. And actually, it's quite interesting because you do get some that are just absolute stereotypes of their star sign, and then you get others that are just really.
And I do find, if I'm going to be generalising here, I would say Leo probably more prone to that than almost anybody.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what's quite funny, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I mean,
with the
every
exception
Leo,
of my brother, bless him. But yeah,
there always can be exceptions.
oh, bless
Absolutely.
him. He was definitely should have been born at a different time of year, but there we go.
Yeah, but I would certainly say yes, Leos. Yes, we've all known them.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. You sort of think, oh, this or
really.
my previous horror was Scorpios. Actually, apologies to any Scorpios that are watching. But
I
yes,
I very much like Scorpios, but you have to be careful with them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and I don't know. It's just an interesting concept, really, isn't it? Because obviously, it literally splits the population into 12ths, and not everybody born on that particular star sign can be exactly the same, but there are definitely. I don't know. In my book, there are definitely certain traits that seem to be. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
There are some traits, and
yeah.
Yes, I mean, without a doubt. So hands apparently is forked because they're a cuspy. So cuspy of which are we a cuspy on? Caught between two signs.
Yes. Hang on, what we got here? Yeah, taking stock. Just yeah. Jen says, of course, Leo believes that about themselves. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Foregone conclusion there.
Yeah, Hansy's halfway between two signs, I think.
Yeah. Right.
Definitely.
Halfway between two. I wonder which ones. I don't know. I've got to, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's for them to know and us to wonder about, obviously.
Indeed. Indeed.
Well, on that note, I'm going to say cheerio, toodle pip, and etc.
Something along those lines, because we've been on for nearly an hour.
Exactly. So thank you everybody for tuning in today and putting your contributions forward. Always very, very well received. Thank you. And we'll be back next week having a good old natter, I have no doubt. Are you free next week?
I believe so.
Marvellous. Okay, so on that particular note, we'll say cheerio and do the awkward wave, Heather. There she goes. Awkward wave. Bye, bye, bye.